Students, welcome to this video lecture session number 11 for the program BBA, subject Consumer Behavior, semester 5th semester for Bangalore North University. So in this video lecture, you will be able to know the determinants of consumer behavior. Under this chapter, the subheading is Consumer Needs and Motivation. This is second chapter as per your syllabus. So recap of previous class. In the last chapter, under the last topic was recent trends in consumer behavior. It was discussed in the previous session, video lecture number 10. So recent trends in consumer behavior. The various recent trends in consumer behaviors are study of mental awareness, health consciousness, and present day market consumer behavior is consumer oriented market or consumer driven market, and the more focus is on given on health consciousness products, and eco-friendly products should be supplied by manufacturer to the consumers. And the learning objective of this session is the students will be able to understand the consumer needs and motivation that triggers the buying behavior of the consumers. And the session outcome is the students will be able to understand the consumer needs and motivation that triggers the buying behavior or buying pattern of the consumers. So let us discuss about the background of these consumers uh, needs and motivation. So personality and mental characteristics of individual is said to be affect the decision making process. For purchasing the products or services, every consumer has impact on their personality as well as mental characteristics. These are the peculiar characteristics that differ from one individual to another individual and even consumption behavior of an individual. And here, marketer has to analyze the role of various individual determinants in analyzing the consumer behavior. So, as a marketer, he has to analyze the various determinants of the individual so that consumer behavior can be predicted. So, it is very challenging task for the marketers to know the mental characteristics, personality characteristics for the in the decision making process of the consumers. So consumer needs and motivation. What do you mean by consumer needs? Consumer needs is nothing but their taste and preferences or unmet needs that should be fulfilled by satisfied by the manufacturer or marketers to the consumer according to their products or services. So before going to the meaning of motivation, there are three types of motives behind every consumer for the purchasing of products or services. First one, motive. A motive is an inner state that energizes activities or moves and directs or channels behaviors towards the goal. So every human being has a goal in the commercial purpose, that is to acquire the requirement products or services. So for any consumer, there is a inner state that energizes, that urges the consumer to go ahead with purchase the products or services or to do some activities or not. So that is called as inner urge state. So that makes them to move and directs or channels behavior towards the goal. So what is their goal? In case of consumer, if they want to satisfy their unmet needs by purchasing these want goods or services, this becomes a goal. So for every activity action, there should be a motive behind the consumer so that they can purchase the goods or services. The second type of motives is motivation. Motivation is nothing but it is the process that drives in a person to perceive a need and pursue a definite course of action to fulfill the needs. It is the process that drives in a person to perceive. So perceive here is nothing but assuming about the products or services. So these motives are just the persons to drives a need. As I said, every human being require have a different types of needs. So, due to motive, he is going to make an action by purchasing the goods or services, and pursue a definite course of action to fulfill the needs. Pursue the definite course of action means he's going to actually purchase the products or services in order to fulfill his needs or wants. That is called as motivation. Motivating, it implies an activity engaged to into by an individual by which they channelize the strong motive in satisfactory direction. So through motivating, so motivating is nothing but an activity engaged into by individual. Any individual who is going to make an activity that engages himself, themselves, so which channelizes them to achieve strong motive behind them to have a satisfactory direction, that is to satisfy his needs or wants by purchasing the goods or services. So, as a psychologist has described the study of motivation as covering all those things which are biological, social, and psychological, and that they defeat our laziness and moves us either eagerly or reluctantly to an action. So, as per psychology, it says that defines that study of motivation as a covering all those things which are biological means physical things, and sociological which affects the group, and psychological is nothing but mental characteristics that they defeat our laziness and moves us either eagerly or reluctantly to an action. To action is nothing but to perform some activities. So that is nothing but to purchase the by purchasing of products or services. In simple study, a motivation is concerned with people choose and behave in certain way. So, as per this definition, meaning motivation is concerned with a people chooses and behave in a certain way. A certain way means nothing but according to their needs and demands. And motivation is concerned with the three things. Basically, motivation covers three things: needs, drives, and goals. Needs is nothing but basic human requirements. For a every human being, there are three basic requirements, that is food, cloth, shelter. That is the basic things that is required by every human being. So, after fulfilling these needs, then next hierarchical level motivation is going to satisfy the every human beings. So, needs are very important concern with the motivation, and it drives, what drives them, how needs translate into behavior. So, after identifying their needs, how they are going to translate into a behavior to perform to acquire those basic needs is called as drives. How urge them. Suppose if a person is fulfilled with the food, then he is concentrating on clothes. So if a person fulfills both food and cloth, he will be next concentrating on shelters. Like that, he what makes them to perform behavior to acquire these unwanted needs, unmet needs, that is called as drives. What is the driving factor that urges them to make an action is called as drives. Goals, what these behaviors aim to achieve. So after needs and drives, these needs and drives convert them into goals. Goals is nothing but actually achieving the objective is called as goals. Performing a particular action, performing a particular act is called as goals. So these three are basic concepts of concerned with motivation. And there are two types of motives, that is emotional versus rational motives. What is rational motives? Rational motives is nothing but here products and services will be selected by the consumer after carefully weighing the pros, problems and consequences of all the alternatives and then choose the best one. That is example size, weight, and price, etc. By comparing these things, that is pros and cons of the each various alternative products relating to size, weight, and price, he is going to make the suitable product that satisfies himself. Is called as rational motives. Usually, every consumer, every being is going to make rational motives. And emotional motives. Here, the product and services will be selected on the basis of emotional involvement, such as desire for recognition of status, fear, pride, esteem, and love. Here, a consumer is going to purchase the product on the basis of emotional involvement, such as desire to recognition of status. So, in order to gain the status in the Society is going to buy the products by acting emotional motives. And fear, pride, esteem, these all constitute emotional motives. And next one is positive or negative motivation. What is positive motivation? Positive motivation is nothing but if an individual experiences a driving force towards an object or person or situation is called as positive motivation. If an individual experiences a driving force, and this is the basic experience is found in the case of positive motivation, in order to achieve the object or a situation is called as positive motivation. And another one is negative motivation. A driving force compelling a person to move away from someone or something will be known as negative motivation. A driving force, a factors that compels, forces the person to move away from someone or something. So he is going to move away from someone or something which makes force them. That is the driving factor in case of negative motivation. So, out of these consumer needs and motivation, I preferred some MCQs so that it can be easily better understand of the concept of consumer needs and motivation. The first one is personality is related to. Personality is related to purely a psychological aspects, behavioral aspects, social aspects, none of these aspects. So personality, which is purely related to mental characteristics, are it is also nothing but social psychological aspects. And motivation is concerned with needs, drives, and goals. As I explained in the meaning itself, motivation is concerned with three things, that is, needs, drives, and goals. Needs is nothing but the most basic human requirement which satisfy, and drives is nothing but tells how these needs translates into behavior, and goals, what these behavior aims to achieve, these call it as goals. So all these three constitutes motivation. Under dash motives, various objects criteria such as size, weight, and price will be selected. Under emotional, under rational, and positive and negative, as I discussed in the rational versus emotional motives. So here the basic criteria will be taken as size, weight, and price will be taken as rational. So hence the answer is rational motives. Under dash motives, goals are selected purely on personal or subjective criteria. So personal, purely on personal or subjective criteria is nothing but emotional motive, rational motive, positive motive, negative motive. So as I discussed in the previous slides itself, that is emotional motive that we place a selected purely on personal or subjective criteria. Hence, the answer is emotional motive. So finally, a driving force compelling the person to move away from someone or something will be known as. So this is positive versus negative motivation or motivation. None of these. The answer is negative motivation, where they themselves force them to move away from someone or something is called as negative motivation. Answer is B. And these are the references I have taken to collect the data. So thank you for watching this video.